The discharge process. The first thing that I would do in discharge process is make sure that all of my plans, like this vag delivery postpartum plan, is discontinued. That will help when I get to medication reconciliation at discharge. The next thing that I'll do is click on the blue Add Orders button, and I'm going to type in discharge, and I'm going to find the discharge patient order, and I'm going to say Done to my scratch pad. So now I have an order for discharging my patient. I need to say what time is okay with me to discharge this patient. So if it's not okay with me until they go home after supper, then I might want to time this for 1800, and in the special instructions I may want to say after dinner tonight. That way it's very clear to the nursing staff when it's okay with you to discharge your patient home. So I'm going to sign this order, and you can see now that the discharge order is processing, and when I refresh my screen, now it changes to an ordered status. Once I've placed the order, now I need to go plan for their discharge instructions. The way that we do that is this button up here called Depart. It's in the top row of your icons, and it's got a door with a blue background behind it. The Depart window, really, we begin planning patient discharge from their admission time. And we just keep adding to it and adding to it. So really you could do the same and start planning your discharge upon admission. The first thing that you'll want to do is tell the patient when to follow up with you once they are discharged. And we'll work from top to bottom. If you click in the gray boxes in front of each of these items, that item window will open. So I'm going to click on follow up, and the first thing that I do is type in the last name of my physician which the patient will follow up with. And then I need to tell them within what time frame do we want them to follow up. I'm going to select 1 to 2 weeks. I want to check and make sure that this is the correct business address and phone number to where the patient will follow up. In some cases we have more than one address built in Cerner, and so you'll need to indicate to which address you want the patient to follow up. The next thing that I'm going to do is to double click on one of these defined comments that says call for follow-up appointment, so that I'm sure that the patient knows that they need to call for an appointment, that they don't automatically have an appointment. And now you can see down here my follow-up sentence has been built. I'm following up with Dr. Corzin in 1 to 2 weeks at this address, and I need to call for an appointment. And I'm going to say OK down in the bottom, and that will apply that instruction to the patient's discharge instructions. And if you scroll down to the follow-up section, you can see that everything I added is here. The next thing that I'm going to do, if there are any special restrictions or diets or driving restrictions, maybe I don't want them no driving for 2 weeks and no work for 6 months. So we can enter restrictions in here as well. And to sign your restrictions page, the green check mark in the very upper left hand corner is the sign form. And again, that will bring me back to my discharge instructions working, and you can see right here, patient home instructions, no driving for 2 weeks, no work for 6 months. So it won't display the things that we did not chart in. It only displays the restrictions or the instructions that we've added to that form. Okay, the next section that we'll do is the discharge medication reconciliation. Now, what I want you to notice, this looks very similar to the admit and the transfer discharge reconciliation, but there are some differences that I want you to notice. The only things that pre-populate into a continue or do not continue are the things that we've discontinued from the orders page. So I discontinued my vag delivery postpartum plans, and so everything that was in there is listed here in a do not continue after discharge column. I can change that, however, if I do want them to continue. And we'll go through that. The way I like to work through this, again, is top to bottom. We want to see that all these orange circles go away first. So I do not want my patient to continue on Xanax. They don't need to continue their amoxicillin. I do want them to continue their prenatal vitamins. But it's listed here 3 times because they were ordered to have that in the hospital as well. But I want them to continue to take their home medication. And they do not need a prescription for that since they already have still some left. Let's say, though, that I do want to give them a prescription for this pain medication. The way that I do that is I'm going to click in this row on the Create New RX, Create New Prescription. And what that's going to do is it's going to add this medication over here, but you'll see it has a blue circle, so we're going to need to add some details into that. Everything else, as I'm working my way down, it's okay to discontinue. I do not need anything more continued. So I'm going to click on my Norco, and down in the bottom here, it brings me up some details that I can just make sure is correct. I do want them to have 1 tab, PO, Q4 hours. And if you actually calculate this out, a 30-day refill would be 180 tabs. I certainly don't want that. I maybe only want them to have 12 tabs. So I can change that. It'd be PRN for pain, and refills would be 0. Other than that, the only thing I need to fill out is my prescription printer. Once I've finished reconciling my medications and adding any home prescriptions, down in the bottom I can say reconcile and sign. I do not want to print the discharge report yet because the nurse will still be adding things prior to their discharge. So I'm just going to say reconcile and sign. And that should take me back to my Depart window. And if I scroll down, you'll see that I have an updated medication list, and this is the only medication that this patient is going to go home on. Now the nursing staff will finish out with patient education, and then they'll sign and print this for the patient. But I do want to show you in patient education, if there's something that you want to make sure gets in the discharge instructions for your patient, you sure can. So in the search window, when it comes up, you can type in I'd like added. Down in the bottom window is where I can make any adjustments to the information that I want. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to read through this information and make sure that it's everything that I want. If there are things that I don't want, I may simply highlight them and hit the delete key. If there are things that I want to change, so let's say, for example, seek medical care if you have a temperature over, I want it to say 101.5. I may change that. So once I've made sure that that content is exactly what I want, I'm going to again say OK. And that will keep adding to the content for this patient. And if we scroll down, you can see that that content is right here.